Welcome all to yet another edition of Still Uncaptured with myself, Undumiso Wakangcobo, umfana wase Hammersdale, umfana wase Maqadini, Iqadi, and of course I am with
Khomotso Matsunyane, being your co-host for today on this fabulous topic we're going to have a talk about. Well, I think it's fabulous. So I'm completely already biased, all right?
Yeah.
It tends to affect women more significantly. It's that changing of life thing. So here's what happened. I put up on TikTok a reel where I was talking about menopause, my own, and I was talking about my symptoms. Oh my goodness, like you guys heard me, you felt me, like 420,000 views later and comments still coming in that people, women in particular, were saying, can we please talk about this? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk to a menopause expert, a menopause coach, Xoli Madlala. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi.
Sawubona ntombazane yaseMaritzburg.
Ninjani?
Yasempithi.
Ingungundlovu.
Ezweni lezoni.
Hey wena. Hey, wazazi. Yimloy.
So, Xoli, let's talk about menopause.
Yes, ma'am.
What is it?
I think we must just lay it in the simplest of terms, right? So that everybody is able to follow. I always say menopause is the exact opposite of puberty. Puberty, a girl starts her periods. Menopause, periods come to an end. A girl, if she has sex, she's going to fall pregnant. When you're having sex, when you're in menopause, you're no longer going to fall pregnant, which is one of the positives, obviously, especially if you no longer want to have children. And during that time, before a woman has reached menopause, there is a journey because the hormones are going haywire at that time, especially the estrogen, which is responsible for our functioning from the top of our head to the bottom of our feet. So as it's fluctuating, then the body starts presenting with a number of symptoms. And I know that the most popular symptoms are hot flashes because they are so obvious when they're happening.
They're overwhelming.
Yes. And because they are the most popular symptom, then most women, when they are transitioning, like going into menopause, they miss that period because hot flashes are not happening, but they're presenting with other symptoms, which is why it's important that we know as many of them. But before we get to the symptoms, then to say that a person has reached menopause, they should have gone for 12 months straight without a period. Not 10 months,
Right.
not 11 months. You need to count backwards and say that it's been a full 12 months. And sometimes it's when you find that some women, if it's been 9 months, they think they've reached menopause.
Right.
Gandhi, they have not. And sometimes then they relax on their contraceptives. And then they find themselves with those surprise babies. And it's like, how did we fall pregnant?
Right.
Last born wakithi oqala una 22. Then khona lo fika manje. How did that happen? So normally that's what is the case in most families. So if you are on a loop, some women can say that I don't see my periods anyway.
Right.
So how then do I check that I've reached menopause? That's when now it's also important to know the other symptoms because then, okay, periods are not becoming irregular, but then you can look at other things that are happening at that time. Maybe your hair is falling off, your hair is thinning, you're struggling with dry skin, you're struggling with dry eyes, you're struggling with dry mouth, almost like anything and everything that can go dry. It goes dry.
Including the vagina.
Yes, including the vagina. And some women will say that I've got ringing in the ears. For some, it's not ringing in the ears. It's almost like a buzzing sound. And the weight gain that you haven't changed how you're eating. You're still eating the same way, but suddenly it's like, how? What's going on here? It's the joint pain. Some it's the weak, brittle nails. Others, it's increased UTIs, endless trips now to the bathroom. And the opposite of hot flashes that happens at night is the night sweats. And I know most men will attest to this because when you share a bed with a perimenopausal woman, you will not miss her blankets on, blankets off. Then again, like cuddling, move away, come closer, 1 foot out and all of that. And then these are just some of the physical symptoms. Then there is the emotional symptoms, like you go from 0 to 100, like with that rage. And we know most of us, when you grew up, there used to be that house. Yo, Ebola, when it landed in that house, who's the one that is going to go get it? Because that lady who's going to be screaming before you even see her, like, And you think about it in hindsight, because chances are it had nothing to do with the ball that landed on the grass. She was just hormonal, but
Right.
she did not know what's going on. The feelings of sadness, I share even myself. Sometimes you're just like, everything is perfect in your world, but you feel like you want to cry. And if you have to explain to someone else, they'd be like, what's going on? Why would you want to cry when everything is okay? And that's when most women start thinking that maybe they're losing their minds, because why would I be feeling all of these things? And then there is the feelings of just like doom and gloom also. You change. If you were like a social butterfly, suddenly you leave for cancelled plans. You had RSVP'd, good, gila. But on the day, you're like, no, the world can go on without me. You want to isolate yourself, that lack of motivation. And then the ones that we hardly speak about and most women struggle with, it is the psychological symptoms. Yes, now we're mostly talking about the brain fog, which affects most of women's self-confidence, because 1 minute you know exactly what you want to say, then all eyes are on you, and then it's like you're having that buffering moment. And when you do not know what's going on and you can't explain, then so that I answer Lutho, even though you want to contribute to conversations,
Right.
or even at work, in a meeting, and you know what you want to say, but you're like, I'm just going to sit on it, because the moment in Giti, then this is what is going to happen. And then at the most extreme, then there is climacteric depression. And I always make an example that with periods, women will say, okay, or girls, PMS, then it comes with this depressed state for a few days. Then once you're done with your periods, then you're back on again. Same as pregnancy. Some women will say, you go, you know what, I'm struggling, especially after maybe giving birth, about postpartum depression, effects of hormones. Same as with menopause also, there is this depression that is tied to hormonal effects. It's got nothing to do with clinical depression. But you find that if women do not know what's going on, and because menopause is also under-researched, then they go to the GP. Sometimes the GP can be quick then to prescribe them antidepressants without maybe nullifying all of these other aspects. Look at age, check what other changes they've been experiencing, which is why these conversations are important then, because then women know what other symptoms are there. For example, some people don't get hot flashes, but they get chills. That's mina ngihlala emgodola nje,
Right.
understand? And we speak about loss of libido for some women. Others is like, yo, me now, my husband sometimes, or my partner looks at me, goes, you can't do, why are you always wanting it? So we need to know as many as possible, because it's not one size fits all when it comes to this.
Wow, that's a mouthful. So Dr. Google. Dr. Google can be good, but Dr.
Yes.
Google can also be bad, because now
Can
it's just
lead you
like,
astray.
I'm dying of cancer. It's
Yes,
like, no,
yes.
honey, you're just having menopause. But there are some symptoms that seem like, I was just shocked at how many women just don't know much about menopause. Is there a taboo around the subject, would you say?
There's a lot. Actually, I was seeing even a comment yesterday on Twitter. Somebody was commenting. There was a video of this lady. I think she did a live doing things to herself. And then the conversation ended up going about, she's old. What is this thing about saying that women get better with age? Because, menopause comes with it, and then they are over the hill. There are all of those things. So it's comments like that that make women not want to embrace this phase of life. Because the moment you mention it, people go like, oh no, does it mean that my shelf life is now here?
Right.
Especially if you're still single, like which man is still gonna look at me then? Because the symptoms or the conversations around menopause are always negative, then people would rather than keep quiet about it. And it's important also, because we did not touch on the fact that menopause normally happens from the ages of 45 to 55, 51 being the most common age. But menopause can happen earlier. And if it happens between the ages of 40 and 44, then it's early menopause. And then anything that is younger than 40, then it is premature menopause. And that's what also happened to me, living my best life, then suddenly all these symptoms. But because nobody was talking about it, I also was just going on through it, like looking at them in isolation. Digestive issues, okay, maybe it's something that does not agree with my system. Insomnia, I was working as a flight attendant, like, okay, time zone changes. Only after a number of years, when like basic shubi, for lack of a better word, then I had to go like seek medical intervention. And we said that it has to be the 12 months, right, without a period. It's important ukuthi this 12 months before iyenzeka, normally it takes years. It's almost like stop, start, go. It can take 7 years to transition into menopause. It can take 10 years. Some women, it as long as 14 years, especially for us, Black people.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It's
Why specifically for, especially for Black people?
they
What-
are
what's-
actually
yeah?
research is still going on as to finding out what is the exact cause, because also like for things like your hot flashes and your
Yes.
night sweats, which are called vasomotor symptoms, they're more severe with us. Like with other races, you find that Caucasians and Asians, they struggle more with bone issues. Hence, you will see like ubeke ugogo womuntu omnyama here, ubeke ugogo womlungu, this the same age, but the womuntu omnyama usakhona ukuma, they're still more flexible and agile. But the other one already, we find that they've had maybe a hip replacement surgery, they're more hunched. So the research is only now being done because for years nobody was talking about it. Everybody was just going through it in silence. That is why even some doctors, they'll tell you that in medical school, only those that wanna like specialize in menopause or in women's health to the T will have more information. Otherwise, it's something that is passed over. And the question then always surfaces that why was that? And is it because women back then, maybe their transition was much easier because maybe lifestyle and like life was different? Now we are faced with different things like whether smoking, firstly. That's the first question that you get asked if you go into menopause before the age of 45. I was asked, do you smoke? Because it plays a huge role. They look at lifestyle factors, they look at family history, they look at whether you've got autoimmune diseases, right?
All right. You know the Zulu phrase, "Induna abafazi," and that's basically, and it's got to do with a man who doesn't have a beard. So
Yeah.
I am a bit of Induna abafazi, and therefore I do not want to insert myself in a conversation that. But when you said when you said 51, like there was a bell that rang in my head because my wife is 51, right? And just this past weekend, in fact, this past week, like Thursday, Friday, the whole weekend, she was booked off. The symptoms you are you are describing, like it got to the point where we ended up saying on Sunday, let's just go for a Thai massage just to relax you and that sort of thing. And the question is, for me now as a man who is with a woman who is presenting with these symptoms, because the hot, like her own personal summer, where you're just all sitting in the house, you're going, what's going on, and so forth. As a partner to a woman who is undergoing all of this, what are the best ways to actually deal with it? Fortunately for me, mood swings. She's always just been someone who's constant. But all the other symptoms, the fatigue, what do I do? What do I do?
I always say informed equals empowered. That's how I'll even sign the book. And in my book, chapter 25, it speaks solely to men to understand also how to navigate this phase of life. Because sometimes you are the people that notice the changes before. I've had a number of women say that, it's my husband that pointed it out because I was blissfully unaware. Because sometimes when you are in the thing, I walk away. But with no, man, we are noticing this and that and that. So firstly, it's important to know as much as possible. And once you are informed, then have the conversation now with your partner. Because as I said earlier, it's not a blanket approach. You hear from them, how best can I support you? Because symptoms are fine. So for example, if she's struggling with fatigue, then you can look maybe in the household. What can we do to make her feel supported? Maybe she's doing more of the cooking. Then you can say, we'll take turns. The cleaning, the children in the house, are here and there, or you get someone in the house. And if she is saying, even because it can affect abomakoti when you are at the in-laws. Now they're looking at you, it's like, man, why are you dropping the ball? Because normally siyakwazi go to squishy samakoti. But when you reach this phase of life, now umungazi, you can't even explain to them. So it's important you hear from a person how best they need to be supported, and then you give them that kind of a support. And also, if you feel like they are not aware, timing of bringing this conversation to them is important. And I always say, don't bring these conversations or any heavy conversations in the house. Just go somewhere. A change of environment, it allows people to be receptive of certain things in a different way. Then just bring it up sometimes if they're not aware that I've noticed that this is what has been happening. And I've watched, for example, a YouTube clip where they were talking about this. It's a possibility because looking at your age, it can be a thing. And if you're struggling with weight gain and all of those things, then you say, what do you want to do? Because if she also has joint pains, then gym might not be the thing for her.
Yep.
Then fitness is more than just gym. Like, should we go for a walk, play with the children, or there's so many other things like that is joy movement. Indigenous games, like spending time outdoors, it plays a huge role. You get movement for the body. You're getting sunlight, you're getting fresh air. It improves even your mood. You start not maybe hiking, but go for nature walks, because also in nature there is so much healing, so much benefit. And that's why, again, whenever I think about it, in the olden days, did they strive better because like they walked by your Teza, or they did not have cars? So spending time out in nature made sure that they were good. They were having a sunlight every day. These days you hardly sometimes get sunlight. Drive to work, park underground, go up to the office, you knock off, get in the car, get home, you're exposed to artificial lighting. A week is gone without getting sunlight. Next thing, you are prescribed with this low mood. Then you have to go to the pharmacy to get vitamin D, when nature
Sounds very familiar.
has provided us with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, in a nutshell, though, it's important to have conversations with your partner to hear from them what is the best way to support them, because there's nothing worse than giving what is not needed just because you assume that the person, this is what they need. So the conversations are the best thing. And also hearing from them, like humor, because it's almost like, am I fat? It's always like women in that question. So you hear, because humor has got a time and place. Sometimes you might think I'm cracking a joke, and then that person is ready to blacksem you. So hear from your partner.
I was just listening to you talking about that. It was like how to talk to your partner and how can you be better about bringing things up, because we can be sensitive.
Yeah.
So I imagine to say like, "Hey, umudi matatia" is probably not the best response.
No.
Because I want to react like an angry person, which has no sense. I could know that, of course, he's right.
Yeah.
I've been
But-
completely unreasonable. But it's the principle.
Yes, how?
Again, this sounds familiar because you see, I've got two wives. My work wife.
yes.
So 7-8 years ago, I think it was. Oh, that was rough working with you back then.
Every menopause.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh my
washing.
goodness! It was
It was bad.
because it was like 4 seasons in one show. Just like one segment. And then the next thing, she's like Sunny, and then our technical producer Eddie would say, "Mapoloba, calm down. She's okay now."
It was about right.
Was about right, and also that fuzziness. Remember, like you switch on the mic, and then you go, what are we doing again?
Brain fog.
No, you had
That's
a lot
what
of
we
brain
call
fog.
about brain fog. And today's not a great day for me because I'm so exhausted. Partly because I woke up at midnight for no reason. I'm just like, so what am I gonna do to try and get back to sleep? And I kept waking up sort of like every hour. It wasn't like enough, and then I had to wake up so that we could come do the show. But I feel overwhelmed by my symptoms. Where is a good place to start? Because we talked about Dr. Google, but how do you know that this is really perimenopause and you're not losing your marbles?
Okay.
How important is a diagnosis? You talked about the 12 months.
Yes.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
And also to remember, which means you must be meticulous note taker, because you need to know this happened here and this didn't happen here. But yes, at what point is it an issue where you go see a real doctor and not Dr. Google?
Okay. Firstly, if you are from the ages of 45, they just say it's a given that when you start presenting with these symptoms, you can almost start saying, okay, it's perimenopause rearing its head. But if you're younger than 45, then even if you are almost convinced that it's it, you cannot say, okay, fine, I know. You need to go do certain tests, whether it's for your thyroid, because I mean, some of these symptoms can mimic symptoms of
Right.
other things, like suddenly you are what if go to Nama night sweat is due to TB,
Right.
and all of those things. So you need to go do the right test that can confirm that indeed then you are transitioning into menopause. And that is why also before time, it's good to have like proper relationships with your doctor and have that habit of knowing what he is always checking for, because most of the time we don't even know what our doctors are looking for. You sit on the other side, he's on the other side, and he'll be like, okay, you need to go do this test. You ask no questions, results come back, and then he says, oh, this is that and that, this is what I'm prescribing you, tata, you go. So you don't have any voice, you don't have any idea as to what is happening with your well-being. But once you know, like with these conversations, reading books or watching a number of now conversations around this phase of life, then you can have a firmer voice even when you go for your consultations. Because if you're younger than 45, most women will tell you that they get sent away sometimes with Dr. Atai before this thing. There's no way you go to you. And as then how then do you say, but I'm not crazy? Because firstly, our gut instinct, it always tells us when something is wrong. But when it's gut instinct versus science,
Right.
then some women can feel like, okay, science is winning over what I am feeling. And that's why even in the UK, doctors had a term for women. They will call them WW, whiny women, because they keep coming. It's like, oh, today I'm having heart palpitation. I think I'm dying, a heart attack. You do the test, everything comes all clear, because it's more of a hormonal thing. Then you hear someone's like, oh my God, my breasts are so sore. I don't even want to be touched. They're thinking like maybe it's breast cancer. They do the test, everything comes back clear again. And that's when they really think like, I am losing my marbles. So yet again, Black women, they're the least heard when it comes to medical consultations. It is suggested that if you feel like your doctor is not like giving you the attention that you feel like you deserve, you're not married to him, you're not tied to him, go look for a second opinion, because sometimes doctors have missed this transition. As Shiluguti is still under research, is understudied. But if you're older than 45, you can do those tests, but chances are your hormones are already all over the place. So it's not going to give that right diagnosis. Then you just need to look at yourself to say that it's Shaile time in that sense. Then I need to then find ways of dealing with it. And when we say ways of dealing with it, you look at your lifestyle factors, what you can change first. If you're struggling with insomnia, how do I navigate this? Normally, my night routine is in Pamgo TV 6 till the last soapy. And by the time you go to bed again, you still have your bright lights on. Then you are also on the phone with the blue light. You need to make those changes to say that like my winding down time is from this time. And then I am changing, red light is the most recommended one because it's darker. And then you look again in the olden days or in the rural areas, they don't have such things, this artificial lighting. And when you're visiting in the rural areas, normally you find that after night one, maybe you start sleeping better because we're not exposed to this. Even when you go outside, it's darker, you see the stars. City lights, it already is depriving of all of those things. So you look at your sleep patterns. You share a bed with someone and it's winter. They want their 3 blankets, a duvet, an electric blanket, and your story is different. Then how are we gonna do this? And that's when you're like, I'm 3/4 beds, like bogogo that they used to have nabomkhulu. There was a reason. You sleep on your side, I sleep on my side, because silala ngendlela engafani. You understand? Then you can do whatever that you need to do. Because also the night sweats can just wake you up in the middle of the night, and then others will be like, my bed is drenched. Ngathi ngizichamele kwesinye isikhathi, omunye athi kumele ngichange the linen and all of that in the middle of the night. Then uma sewazi, then decrease ke. Keep lama blankets, because there's this psychological thing also that you're so used to this weight that brings you comfort. Then what wins? try to wean yourself by then starting to decrease my blanket, those flannel pajamas. Then they're no longer going to be your friend. Try to go like lighter or go for cotton, breathable pajamas and all of those things. Have your glass of water, iced water. Find ways though to make sure that your comfort in Epsugu is better. If you're struggling with the endless bathroom trips when we are up and down to the bathroom, moonwalking, try to limit your fluid intake, say like Naboma 5, 6.
So just the way we train kids at night to be like, go to the bathroom first before you go to sleep, so that they don't pee in the blankets.
Yes, because it's difficult to fall back, as you say, Naboma 3 o'clock, and you find people like, oh, I'm a prayer warrior.
Oh.
Are you really a prayer warrior?
Right.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I found fascinating, anyway, we'll talk about it when we come back. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Still Uncaptured, and we're having a conversation with Xoli Madlala about menopause.
Yes.
So, Halle Berry seemed revolutionary. Just a few months ago, she came out talking about, very honestly, about menopause and the big change that it was in her life and all of that stuff, which made me think like Halle Berry's the first woman, famous woman, that I've heard talking about this. Why is there such a taboo? Is it, like you said earlier, a matter of you're losing your virility, so to speak, as a woman, your ability to bear children, which, oh my God, African culture is so valued.
Yeah.
It's like, are you even a woman when you don't have children? Do you understand? And I was just surprised that she's the first person to kind of stand up and say, I'm going to speak on behalf of women who are going through menopause. It seemed like a revolutionary act. Meanwhile, you're like, why is it taking so long? Why?
Because as I say, people, especially people that have got platforms. Here in South Africa since 2016, I've been trying to get like people that have got platforms to join forces with me so that we can have a bigger reach. And I've got blue tick like on my phone, blue ticks, because people, when they're not clued up about something, firstly, then they feel like, or they're not relating to it.
Right.
Then it's no longer, it's not a thing for them. I'm sure even Halle Berry, if you had approached her before her own journey, she was not really going to take it seriously because she was not experiencing it. So I always say people that make a change in any way in the world, they have normally personal interest in the subject because maybe someone that they love was struggling through it, or them themselves were struggling through it.
Right.
For example, me getting interested in this phase of life, it was my own journey in 2016.
Right.
And I felt like, what a great disservice, because menopause has always been a phase of life. Women have gone through it. How come nobody was talking about it? At the JFWW Festival, I always try to speak to the older ladies, especially those that have been in public spaces or that are still leading amazing organizations. How did you navigate this phase of life? And they go like, shh, we don't talk about those things. And maybe it's because they never saw somebody. So I guess you just have to be that change. Then you give others permission then to speak about it. Like now people saw you with your video.
Right.
Then people then in their own spaces, then they're initiating the conversation. But it is because of the stigma, the stereotypes that were tied to it that most people do not talk about it. And also I think different industries, for example, entertainment industry, they value youthfulness, especially when it comes to female more than to men. I've asked women in the entertainment industry, Guti, why do we see some women submarining when they reach a certain age? And we were fascinated. Then we were mentioning names, like what happens to so and so? And then we connected some of the dots. For example, if you are an actress, early call time, 3 o'clock, you were up since midnight, you haven't slept. You moody, you irritable. You force yourself to show up on set. And you irritable, you saying this and that, then you start getting labeled drama queen and all of those things. She's a diva. But it's something that is beyond you. And then the wardrobe person is someone who's young, who's not even clued up about menopause. They choose your outfit for this sin. And it's something that is going to make you so hot and flustered and bothered. And then you're supposed to remember your lines also. And you're having a buffering moment. I even say with some of the female singers when they say, "Oh, sing along with me in my concert," and I'm like, are we really supposed to sing along, or they're having that they've forgotten their own lyrics? But because of the lack of support and conversations in different industries, then you find that women rather submarine because they think it like, while I'm on stage, I'm gonna forget my lines. Sometimes the lights can be so like hot, and then you're having a melting away moment. And then that affects your self-confidence. Then you are shouting at everybody. And then before you know it, nobody wants to work with you. And before you know it, you're deciding that, you know what, I may as well maybe go behind the scenes because I can no longer be all of that.
And how do you know, sorry, Ndumiso, when it's time for hormone replacement therapy? I know it's very contentious.
Yeah.
There are people who will not touch hormones at all because previously their hormone levels were so big that there were adverse side effects. That's a lot of medication, right? Most medication, if not all of it, comes with some kind of adverse effect.
Yeah.
Where like I take progesterone and estrogen, and I've been taking it for over 10 years. You know, so I wonder, it's like, how long must I? Because when I stop, there's a discernible difference. The hot flushes come back, and that for me is not an option. I'm like, awa, guys, awa. So I'm weighing my options between taking medication that might have adverse effects and balancing it out with, do I want to counter it with what do you call homeopathic medication, which I did for a while as well. And you know what stopped me? The number of pills I had to take every day. Undoable. You know, I was gagging. And I'm like, this is not going to work. If I can't take these pills every day, then kind of like, what's the point? So yeah, I have those issues.
Okay. I always say, as you put it, everything has got its own side effects, unfortunately. And that is why you need to know as much as possible and also try to go the holistic route as much as you can. And then if you get to the point that you're saying, but you know what, nah, I think I would like to explore with this. Oxalayo is there is no one magic anything that will make all the symptoms go away. That's the truth of the matter, because this is a hormone thing. One thing, one day you think, okay, this is my basket of symptoms. And then you wake up, there's, but today I'm feeling something different. What is this murmuring? What is this itchiness? What is going on? You can never, it's almost like the goalposts keep shifting.
Right.
So if you decide that you're going to go the hormonal replacement or MHT, they're calling it now menopause hormone treatment. If you go that route, still know that it's not going to cancel out everything. So it's almost like moving chairs. And listen to your gut instinct again, because Big Pharma, and I'm going to call it what it is, they are making money out of this menopause gold rush. If you're going to go the route of HRT, let it be your decision. I've spoken to women that are on HRT without even their knowledge, because yet again, they are not getting that enlightenment and the conversations with their doctors. And with anything that is medication, you keep increasing the doses to counter the symptoms. And normally then as you increasing the dosages, anything it's got its own side effects. So you're finding yourself on an never-ending Ferris wheel. The foods that we eat, normally we are taught to eat for enjoyment, I always say. We are not taught about the nutritious part of food, the role that it plays, the importance of eliminating things like sugar, because normally we're taught that fat is the enemy, but sugar is the worst culprit. And most women will tell you that, you know what, I'm struggling with this and that and that. But if they were to remove certain things intentionally from the foods that they have gotten used to, they will see changes. There's things that are called endocrine disrupting chemicals, whether it's itolagala products that we are using, you know, the makeup, the hair care products, the self-care products. And for example, you're finding yourself with adult acne, because that's another thing, as we said, which is almost like puberty in reverse. But then you're still putting on makeup because that's how you program that to look good. You need to doll yourself up. Then it's a never-ending Ferris wheel again, because this makeup has got toxins that you're absorbing into your bloodstream. And as women, everything that we are absorbing into our bloodstreams, it goes to our reproductive organs. Hence, you're finding not just with menopause symptoms, but there's more cases of things like your cysts, these cases of about fibroids and all of those things. The relaxers, we taught from a young age that our hair is not manageable. So young girls start relaxing from a young age. And we wonder why puberty is hitting closer and much, much earlier.
Right.
And you get told to go sometimes as long as ingakakshisi, ayikakasebenzi. But the time you say
The damage is done.
You've absorbed it and it's gone to your bloodstreams. The fiber, the hairpiece that we're using, it's got toxins also. That's why women will be like, oh, my scalp is itching, this and that and that. Like the salon, like as they're boiling it with the hot water, the steam also, the hairstylist must ingest. And later you find they're struggling with lung issues, like there's certain types of cancers because of that. And yet again, the people that are coming up with these products, they don't use them. And so they don't care. For them, it's all about the bottom line. So we need to understand that we are poisoning ourselves in so many ways, day to day. The foam baths, when you're saying, I'm pampering myself, self-care this, you're sitting there. And then what happens to your vagina while you're sitting there? You wonder why now I've got increased UTIs. I've got this vaginal dryness. So there is so much that we can do to eliminate some of these things that we add to exacerbate our menopause journey and just hormonal effects. So the more we know about all of these things, then it's multi-pronged, as I say. Then the working out, the gym, the talk therapy also, because sometimes you just need to speak to people that get it. You know, our partners can listen up to so much, but I mean, the menopause struggles are there almost every day. So sometimes you can see that glazed over look sometimes going on is like, I'm supposed to be there, but right now, like, oh my God, I've had enough.
Yeah.
But also men are dealing with their own things because as they're getting older, their testosterone is also decreasing. Then they present with their own things that we hardly speak about also. Others, yes, there is the physical changes that we all see, maybe the reduced muscle mass, like udumkabas, impandla,
Breasts.
the hot flashes, the breasts, abanye, they are like now also moody, they're irritable. So they're dealing with their own changes, even erectile dysfunction. I mean, we're not going to leave that out because sometimes you find a couple, one is loss of libido, ED, and then mishmash in that, all of that. So it is important that we navigate for ourselves. It's trial and error to see how to go through it.
You know, I'm glad that you went there because I was going to start what I want to say with this disclaimer. She knows how sensitive I am. You know, I'm from the writing world, you know, literary world where, you know, you go to book festivals. It be like a woman's issue, and the first person that always puts their hand up is a man, always, you know. So I'm very sensitive about it, but I'm glad you went there because in preparation, obviously, for this conversation, I also went to Dr. Google and I saw it was an academic paper. She knows I'm a nerd. So I think it was Stanford University or whatever. So I was reading about this phenomenon called andropause, or is it hypogonadism, right, and so on. And so I'm looking at all the symptoms, and you know, so you look at the symptoms. You know how we do. You're sitting there, and they say, you're starting to have loss of energy. I'm like, tick, that's me. And whatever you talked about, breasts, I've got an impressive set of men boobs. That is why I'm doing this, right? Tick, and so on and so forth. But you are also talking about taboo, and you wanting to talk to men. Radio silence. I mean, I'm in a couple of WhatsApp groups with men, and I understand that with us, this phenomenon is not as well researched as menopause, obviously, you know, and that understanding that for women, it's actually generally quite dramatic, you know. It's the end of a cycle. With us, it kind of is gradual. And so on. So for men my age, I'm 53, you know, it's anywhere between 20 and 25% of men that will present with these symptoms. And I look at it and then I go to another one where I go, when they say loss of libido, hell no, there's no such problem with me. And I remember, you know, a few months ago, a couple of guys, we went to the Berg, and So we're all in this WhatsApp group, right? And then we were just reenacting some scene from Ilembe and so on. So we all had to take off our shirts. I've got pictures. I mean, there's like sea cups. There's, there's like all varying sizes. Like, but all of us, like you can, the moves are very, very pronounced. And the question is, with us, number one, is it a real thing? Because I think that the science is still kind of figuring out, is that just a normal thing? Because, I mean, as men grow older, also you just find that, I mean, Smokey Robinson, man, he looks like an auntie from El Dorado Park now, So is it a real phenomenon? Because I think the science is a bit fuzzy about it. So that's the first question. The second one is, when I asked them, I said, but guys, are you not experiencing some of these things? These guys are like, we're not interested. Just talk a little bit to that, yeah?
I think them also being like this is because, I mean, people always want to look a certain age. Youthfulness, as I say, it's at the bane of this resistance for everybody to acknowledge, because we're getting older. And it's got its own positives. I mean, wisdom, experience that comes with all of this. You cannot want to have a body of a 25-year-old and have the wisdom of a 51-year-old. Like, if it is what it is, then it is what it is. And because these conversations are not had, as you say also, and the more then we bring this thing up, then men are going to start being like, actually, yeah, we go through this and we need to embrace it. It is a phase of life. The difference between andropause and menopause is menopause, every woman is going to go through it, guaranteed. Andropause, as you put it, not every man is going to go through it. Yes, men do age and testosterone levels do drop, and it comes with its own effects, but not every man is going to go through it. And with menopause, the periods come to a complete stop, right? There is no phase where a man is gonna stop producing sperm. That's another, you understand? They will always produce sperm. You guys produce sperm, and that's why you find men that are as old as they will continue. So that is why there is this discrepancy to say, you can't call andropause male menopause because it's not a direct opposite. It does not happen the same way. And for example, we did not touch on things like your medically induced menopause. When someone is, whether you've got breast cancer, and then you take certain medications or do radiation chemotherapy, then it leads you to medically induced menopause. And I've never had a man that had gone into chemo and have their experience to say, that, do they also go into medically induced menopause now as men? What happens when a man is going through cancer and they're taking like some of these treatments? We know of women that have had a hysterectomy due to whatever reason, then it leads them to surgically induced menopause. And with men, there's still a lot of blank spaces, because men also, they hardly put their hands up and acknowledge, because it's seen as a weakness, acknowledging to certain things. But yes, even in the workplace, someone was just saying that we need to talk overall about the hormonal effects in the workplace. Because you can find in one office building or one office space, there's a woman that is getting her periods, PMSing. That's your desk. There's someone who's pregnant. There's your desk. There's a perimenopausal woman. That's her desk. There's someone who just returned from maternity leave. There's this male in the office that is struggling with andropause or this phase of life. And go toxic. Everybody's struggling with it, or moody, irritable. And then we wonder about the toxicity in the workplace. And normally we are not contributing the hormonal effects that are also at play because of all of these things.
Yeah, all right. We'll be back having a conversation about menopause. Are you having menopause? Something that is fascinating, Xoli. You said that all women go through menopause. There are people on my timeline, on my TikTok account, who are claiming that menopause was never in the Bible. So I rebuke it. I'm not going to get menopause. And I'm thinking, you're joking, right? Sure. Anyway, when we come back, we'll talk about that.
I saw that. And yes, please, let us continue, because, yeah.
Welcome back to Still Uncaptured. We're still talking about all things menopause. So like I said, I think they're lunatics, and I'm going to call her as such. Because Sisi, I think you're a lunatic for suggesting that when you'll never get menopause because you rebuke it. Menopause is not in the Bible. And so people are suffering from things that don't exist. And I'm thinking,
Is it demonic?
she might as well say so. Because it's almost like, you wish this upon yourself, therefore you're going to get it.
Fire, fire.
I rebuke you. And I'm just thinking, like, how sad. How sad for this person that they think, because when the reality hits them, it's not going to be pretty. And chances are they'll probably lie about it. You know, once you've taken a stand, there's a little issue that you kind of have to defend it.
Yeah.
Even if it is completely indefensible.
Yeah.
But because you put your stake, Wati, mina ngumapoloba, and I believe in this, then that's the way that we're going to go.
Yeah, there's quite a number of women, even those that are actually menopausal, that will say that I breathed into it.
Right.
Or it does not happen.
Right.
Research says that 25% of women will have minimal to almost no symptoms. Their periods just become irregular and then they stop, which is like periods. There are girls that life continues. They just get the menstruation, or pregnant women that glow from month 1 till they deliver. And then there's the opposite that will say, you know what, I struggle with minimal symptoms, mild, moderate. And then there are girls that will tell you that even when I was a teenager, the first 2 days of my periods were vicious. I could not attend school and pregnancy. One would be like, one child was enough for me to say that I'm not returning to the labor ward because it was bad. Menopause is also like that. Hence, it's important that nobody should ever invalidate anybody's experience and say, you're making too much out of this menopause thing. You're being dramatic, because that is what you are experiencing. And sometimes those that say that they breezed into menopause, whenever I speak to them, it always, almost most of the time, is they did not breeze into it. They just did not get the symptoms that they were expecting. For example, your periods are regular, but you're struggling with migraines. You are on chronic medication for migraines, and that was your symptom. New and worsening allergies that you are not linking to menopause because nobody is telling you about such thing, you know. Changes in body odor. We grew up like the older ladies as Kalin. And it's because like the hormones are hormoning, just like teenagers. We did say that teenagers sometimes they've got the smell. So some women, like they're not struggling with hot flushes, but their body odor is something else. Like their skin is so dry, but they're thinking like I breathe to it. Frozen shoulder. They're not.
That seems to be quite common.
Yes, only like, but nobody was connecting it to that. You know, you are saying that phantom smells. Uhleli, nuka bent toast esikhaleni. Who's your check kitchen? Like, but there's no toast. All of those things, itchy, crawly things like kwenzakalani. There's electric zap sensations. So most women, the more they know about the symptoms, then they connect the dots, because actually I did go through some of those things. It's just that I was not aware that they were menopausal symptoms because they were not the expected symptoms.
Right.
Due to it being under research, they used to say it's about 12 symptoms. Then the list grew as more women started coming up. The list was at 34. Now the list is over 100.
Yeah.
There's things like your driving anxiety. Nobody used to talk about it. But then women, the moment they get behind the wheel, they get so anxious, they panicky, and they become sometimes even a miserable passenger. Hence, we've got the term now, passenger driver. Because who driver when? But who you are breaker? Slow down, this car end.
Why are you talking about my mother?
Does she behave like that with you?
So here's another thing, right? You talked, and you were talking very directly to me when you talked about spousal support and how you deal with it. Is it a phenomenon? Because I've seen this. I mean, sometimes it's an issue where people just think it's just intergenerational conflict. So you're talking about when women haven't hit there, because we know, and I've seen this in the workplace a lot, particularly between us Gen Xers and millennial, particularly with women, with each other. But also I've kind of have experienced it with my own daughter, where, because I have to say this, because I do not know whether I'm just being I'm an a-hole, or there's something also going on, because I'm figuring it out. Obviously, I do not know where, because I have to say this. Like I'm finding that she knows. Because we've known each other for almost 20 years. That I've just always been a crier. I cry at the. But now it's become quite bad. Like, I see something beautiful. I'm like, because, and I'm always saying, to my wife, I get so emotional. And I'll just be talking, and there's no reason for, to be emotional. So I'm not quite sure. So just speak a little bit about that, particularly because when I've witnessed it with older women and younger women, that there's always been this conflict where they're not getting each other, and the fights and those fights, when I've seen them, have been vicious between like a 28-year-old and a 48-year-old, and you realize that these people are going to claw each other's eyes out. Just and who's I know it's both responsibility. So you cannot speak to the 28-year-old, but also speak to the 48-year-old who is faced with this young woman who is just not getting where they are.
No, it's a reality that these phases, they bring loggerheads, because hormones play a huge role, and different ends of the spectrum. I've had quite a number of people saying exactly that I have to play referee ekaya sometimes, like my mom and my sister just going at it, and being on the sidelines, I'm like, but there was no need for this to happen. But how they are receiving each other, it leads them to that. And I once had a young lady, a UJ, after my talk, saying that you've just made me forgive my grandmother. I used to think that she hates me. But now listening to you, I'm like, she was dealing with menopause, but then there was no vocab for it. We did not know what was happening. If she was still alive, I was going to go and have a conversation with her and tell her, now I understand. And that's when you find also, like, these days, there's big conversations around the mother wound. Especially mother wound, it's normally daughters speaking with to their experience with their mothers. And I've been thinking that most of them, probably, this also played a role, because the mother was perimenopausal, probably. She was not aware. And also, then she was being the way that she was. And the daughter grew up, also hit puberty, and was also hormonal, and they clashed. And most of them, they never found their way back to each other up until maybe certain interventions happen. For some, those interventions never happen. And how do we navigate this? I think through spaces where conversations like this are heard. I've had a lady that says that now that she is aware, when she sits with her family, she will tell them that, you know what, day 1 and day 2 of the month, which is normally around this day, I love you guys, but sometimes I want to kill you. So it is important that you know that man is scarce wherever possible, because any way that I react is beyond me. Because, like, as you were saying, that afterwards you like, it's like an out-of-body experience, because like that was me. There was no need to go from 0 to 100. But if your family now knows, then they are able to have that compassion to give you that grace. It's like, okay, as I'm in space, it's like, I've had a family that was saying, like, the grandmother, she was the one that was struggling with her menopause symptoms versus her daughter, who was also perimenopausal, but hers was much more easier. And she ended up also going on hormone replacement treatment. Then they had to sit the grandchildren, because she'll get so mad at Chika and go, okay, fine. This is what is happening to Gogo. And she's also going to get on this medication. And okay, they knew. But because Mabe Gangile, and they had to be reprimanded. Now the first thing was like, Gogo, did you take your pill? Because now they know that. But as much as now they are using it as a get out of jail card, but at least the conversation had been started. They had an idea that there is this hormonal effect that brings this. And now they can ask in a way that makes sense to their young minds. And also teenagers, then if they've got questions about this phase of life, they can say, Mom, paint the picture more for us, and then they're able to be more graceful. Yonkinto, though, it boils down to being informed, and then finding also icebreakers by watching other women going through it so that they can see that what is happening to you is not just relative to you. They should not just label you "Uqalile nomdumakhanda wakhe," but it is something that is happening.
That's amazing. I'm struggling to kind of we talked about like it can go on for a long time.
Yeah.
The trick is to manage your symptoms, essentially. But is there a standard? Because most women will have their period and have 400 cycles, just about, about 400 to 450. And that's it. You have no more cycles outside of that. You only have so many menses. That you have, which is kind of comforting in a way, because it's like this thing is going to end. Yes, completely. But I'm just wondering that when you are facing a lot of these symptoms, it's about trying to make people understand. But it's about like there's an indigenous knowledge that I'm kind of wanting to open up to say that there's a problem. And I mentioned earlier the fact that Halle Berry sort of like untabooed it. And that's like very recent, like incredibly recent, where it's just like, this is that. You don't feel that same way, Mapoloba, do you? Because you feel like menopause is talked about.
I have to be honest. And I suppose because I was that kind of boy when I was young. I read everything. So I used to read True Love. I would read Cosmo. I'd read Marie Claire. And already in the 1980s, I always used to just, because that's how I knew about menopause. Because even as a young boy, I became very cognizant of it with my mother. Because when my mother was going through it in the 1980s, I would actually then go to my brother, and be like, she's going through the change, this one. So I suppose for me, I've always been sensitized to it, but also because it's exactly what you're talking about, getting the data, reading about it, informing yourself. So I kind of don't have that experience. I've always just thought women talk about menopause all the time, but
I suppose it's also that whole thing that even menstruation. As girls, we were very reluctant to talk about it because men and boys had a thing about making it so dirty. Or
if you've managed to blot on yourself, it's like, oh my God.
As if the world is going to fall apart, as if these people don't have sisters and can be empathetic men and know what to do in the situation. What can I get you? Where can I get it from? And all that stuff. If you were to send the average man to go buy sanitary tampons or napkins, I think you'd be shocked at how badly they would do. Yeah,
I actually wrote a column about this, I think around 2011 in the Sunday Times, because I've got a column in the Sunday Times, and I mean, obviously it's a humor column, but I was just talking about, how awkward it was with me, and I think I called it Things with Wings, because like I just get there and I'm like, I actually do not know which one my wife uses, so I have to pick up my phone and go, baby, they don't seem to have the one that you have. What's the next best one? Because I did not know.
I think that's something we need to change quite a lot, so that boys feel comfortable walking into a shop and being able to order tampons or sanitary pads without flinching.
Oh no! I've bought pads and tampons all the time. Now I'm used to it now.
I was saying to someone, and it was left hanging that the best age to change, like the stigma to all of those things, is at foundation phase. Esikoleni safundiswa ukudrawing ngihlale ngisho locust. Like you can draw a locust, uthi thorax, ini, knowledge that you're never gonna use. And I joke, it's okay, fine. When we're hiking, then I'll be like, oh, there's a locust, let me see.
Right.
But otherwise, we don't really need this information out there. But they should be adding things like this. And then someone at the festival believed that no, then we'll add about andropause and all of those things. I'm like, yes, why not? You just put something that is brief, not going in depth, because it's not like you're saying now children need to know the nitty gritty, but they need to know that reproductive phase, it's got this phase, And this phase, it does not just end like at pregnancy and all of that. So that boy children grow up knowing that there's menopause. Girl children grow up knowing that there's menopause. So head to head, both of them, as they get older, nobody's embarrassed and ashamed about it. They know it's a phase of life that we're going to go through. We meet, we go on a date. Like Xoli, she's in her 30s, just been told that she is in premature menopause. Then she can say from the first date, okay, fine, this is where I am. Do you still want to have children? Because I'm not going to be able to give you children naturally. If he says he wants to have children, then how do we navigate this? Are you staying? Are you wanting to go? How are we going to have this conversation with your family? I've had conversations because the in-laws also play a huge role. And then if we're staying together, are we going to go the route of adoption? Are we going to go the route of IVF? Do we speak to people about this? Because that's another thing. We don't speak about the other options. Like in my case, I was told that I can even use my sister's eggs if I wanted to have my own child. And I'm like, I've never heard of anybody that said, I'll use my sister's eggs to fall pregnant. And then we're like, then whose child is this going to be? Is it my sister's child or is it mine? Because it's my sister's eggs. So those kind of conversations need to be normalized from a young age so that as we get older, then those are things that we should not worry about. We should be worrying about death and taxes, things that are really beyond our control.
And I think, that we underestimate our cultures in the sense that they had a way of dealing with this. If there's somebody who can't have kids, so they borrow somebody else from the same household or like come and propagate. And then you leave the kids and go back to where you sort of came from. So I think stigma sits like Christianity.
Yeah, it's kind of
so and I hate to be that kind of Negro, but I gotta be, right? Government, the state. So when you go into the clinic, there's always charts on the walls in the clinics telling you about all kinds of things, skincare, diet, and so on and so forth. Your sense of Department of Health and the healthcare, does it even exist? Is it anywhere, in
I'll challenge anybody and everybody right now to go to a calendar of Department of Health. See all the awareness drives that they have for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Get to October. Yes, Breast Cancer Awareness Month is there.
Yes.
But there is nothing about Menopause Awareness Month. And that has been the case since 2011. Globally, October is also World Awareness Month. October 18 is World Menopause Awareness Day. There's different themes every year. So the fact that they are not even putting it out there, it speaks to the silence and like we're not even talking about that. I've spoken to whether it's nurses at clinics. They say that even amongst themselves, they don't even speak about it. It's like neither here nor there kind of thing. I was speaking at the GP Expo Centre Convention Center 2 weeks ago. I shared some of the clips. Some of the doctors came to me. They're like, thank you so much for opening the lead to this conversation. One is like, you made me recognize myself as you were talking because it's still understudied. It's under-researched.
So if you are, and you, my friends, I've got a lot of friends in the Department of Health. This is a challenge. This is why I'm looking in this camera. Here's a resource, so you don't have to start, from scratch. You don't have to. And this is part of the problems that we have, in that like pregnancy. I mean, pregnancy is not an illness, right? No. However, the Department of Health takes very seriously issues around pregnancy and everything that you've been talking about. The socio-psychological issues around it, because it affects everyone. Yeah. So it actually, I think, is important that there are such programs. Yeah? And
also in our languages, because that's another thing. We always speak about menopause like higher grade English, and we exclude such a big chunk of women out there, emalokishini, emakaya. Hence, even with the Tshwane study, some women, they think it's baloyiwe, because like igazal sapumi, they think it's stuck somewhere. Then so that they induce it to come out. And as we were talking about the effects of it also in relationships, imagine ubabe makhaya that does not know why sekayachikana usekeya and then umeka ngazi naye ukuthela induku kwesinye isikhathi
Useyindoda lo mfazi.
yes and
Yeah.
then it causes strife in that and so many other spaces I touch again in the book ukuthi Department of Correctional Services, I mean women that are transitioning behind bars, what supports do they have?
Yeah.
Who prepares them for it? And also the wardens themselves, because I mean, as you say, as a partner, you need to be supportive. They need to also be knowledgeable enough to say when a menopausal woman behind bars is saying, this is what is happening. They're not saying, oh, she's spinning stories or she's coming up with these things. Are equal and I show, and you're sharing yourself with so many other people. So yeah, it's such a broad conversation.
Anyway, this has been a fascinating conversation, Xoli. I wish you ridiculous success because you've just started on touching on a very important subject matter, and I think there's so much underneath that is so layered. But history will have it that you were one of the first in South Africa to champion this cause, and I wish you ridiculous success.
Thank you so much. Ngiyabonga kakhulu.
Your success is our success.
Of course.
And that's it from us at Still Uncaptured. Catch us next week for another thrilling episode of our podcast. Bye-bye.